Well, the fight for survival is on to our south down in Texas, where new numbers have just come out this morning. 82 have died in the flooding in Hill Country down in central South Texas. And we know that 10 individuals, many children, and one camp counselor from Camp Mystic are still missing. As we get rolling on a Monday after the Independence Day weekend, I know for many of us, we were celebrating America, everything this great country has stood for, and everything that it has given many of us. And many of us, hopefully, were spending time with the family. Maybe you were spending time, hopefully, if you have them, with your children over the last couple of days. Well, I thought that what happened over the weekend in Texas put this all into some perspective for the rest of us. That if you woke up today with your family, you are rich. There are dozens of families who have woken up today and either have a child missing or know that their child has deceased. Because, as you may know by now, many of these children who passed away were down at this Camp Mystic in Hill Country down there outside of the San Antonio, Austin, Texas area, basically due west of those metropolitan areas is where this Camp Mystic, a long-running, very famous and well-to-do summer camp, Christian summer camp, I will add, for going on 8 decades now, has resided. And you never send your child to a camp and think, God forbid, what if an all-time historic flood breaks out? But that's what these families are dealing with right now in central Texas. They are living in a nightmare. After a flash flood swept away cabins in the middle of the night and took away their children. Parents are waking up without their babies. And if you're waking up today and maybe your kids are an hour, 2 hours away from bickering about nonsense, leaving socks and toys and God knows what else all over the kitchen, none of it matters. You're hearing their voices. You're feeling the chaos. That's wealth. Because there are parents waking up today who don't have that. It's not about the money. It's not about the house. It's not about that to-do list. It is about them. And with that death toll now up to 82 in these catastrophic Texas floods, I think that matters this morning. Because you also had this news break that Chiefs owner Clark Hunt's family suffered a tragic loss in this devastating flood down in Texas. Janie Hunt is a cousin in the family who was one of the Camp Mystic campers who died in the incident. She was just 9 years old. Tavia Hunt, who is Clark Hunt's wife, posted on Instagram yesterday, quote, "Our hearts are broken by the devastation from the floods and the tragic loss of so many lives, including a precious little Hunt cousin, along with several friends, little girls." She adds here, "How do we trust a God who is supposed to be good, all-knowing, and all-powerful, but who allows such terrible things to happen even to children? That is a sacred and tender question, and one the Bible doesn't shy away from. Scripture's filled with the cries of those whose hearts have been shattered, who still wrestle to trust the same God they believe allowed the pain." That is part of the Instagram post from Tavia Hunt. Janie, 9 years old, was the great-granddaughter of the late billionaire William Herbert Hunt, who is the brother of the late Chiefs founder Lamar Hunt. That's the connection there. Of course, Lamar was Clark's father. This was Janie Hunt's first time attending this all-girls camp, which costs thousands of dollars a year for a 30-day camp. And, of course, now we know that this camp has been hit incredibly hard in recent days, and the search is still on for 10 missing campers, including one counselor. Tavia Hunt went on the right, "If your heart is broken, I assure you that God is near. He is gentle with your wounds, and he is still worthy, even when your soul is struggling to believe it. Trust doesn't mean you're over the pain. It means you're handing it to the only one who can hold it with love and restore what was lost. For we do not grieve as those without hope. That is the powerful message from Tavia Hunt on a Monday morning here on KCMO Talk Radio after they lost a cousin in these floods down in Texas. We are going to talk to an old, maybe familiar name to some of you. Brett Anthony used to be a meteorologist at KCTV5 here in Kansas City for quite some time. And as I was thinking about people to get on the show this morning and give some perspective on this, I thought about him because he is now down in the Tyler, Texas area as a meteorologist. So he has been covering this thing closely. And he will join us at 8:30 this morning to get the local weather reaction to what has happened down there. As we now know that death toll has hit 82. In the meantime, it was a busy weekend here in Kansas City as well. I mean, we were watching, I'm sure if you turned on any national news, you saw some of the reaction to what was going on down there in Texas. In Kansas City, it was a relatively quiet one. Weather was pretty good. Fireworks show. I was there on Friday night down at World War I, went off without a hitch. Great event. It was my first time going down there to that fireworks display down at World War I, and they do an absolutely incredible job. It was an honor to help them with the countdown of the fireworks display. And I was just thinking to myself, don't screw up a 10-1 countdown. That is a great way to destroy your career, John. I didn't want to pull a Joe Biden on anybody on Friday night.
When you're looking to go viral, it's not for those kind of reasons.
Yeah, and I kept saying to myself, don't say Happy New Year. Don't say Happy New Year. Ho, 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 Happy New Year. I was like, don't do anything ridiculous. Just count down to 10 and get out of there and get off the stage.
That is one of the best fire shows in the city, or fireworks shows.
I totally agree. But I'll tell you what, as I was driving home, I left a little early to beat the traffic, and I'm driving down 35, and there were some yahoos putting on their own displays on Southwest Trafficway and Broadway, and I could see those in the distance as well. And then people were pulled off on the side of the interstate taking video shots of the multiple fireworks shows going on across Kansas City. I was like, this is not safe, and this feels a little bit too much like a war zone with all the smoke that was all up in the air at that point. Not just from World War I, but from all over town at that point. It was wild.
Nice, humid July evening, but that smoke just hanging.
Oh, man, it was just sitting right there. And I admit I'm not usually a July 4th fireworks guy because, well, frankly, the kids are still pretty young. They don't stay up that late. It's, 10 o'clock by the time these shows get underway, just with the sun setting around here. So I really haven't done it over the last few years. And driving home from it on Friday night, I was like, yeah, this is a lot of people think they're suddenly professional fireworks display artists or whatever you call them. Pyrotechnics professionals, I guess.
Yeah, at 2 a.m., somebody in my neighborhood thought that it was a good idea to blow off something, and the baby woke up. It was not good.
2 a.m.?
Yeah, right in front of our house. It was terrible.
You know who it was?
I don't know who it was.
Oh, come on.
I wish I did know.
You didn't peek out the window?
The Ring doorbell.
Oh, jeez. That is brutal. 2 a.m. You got to be kidding me. Yeah, the kids didn't sleep well on Friday night. The dog was fine. I mean, God bless Woody. 13 years old. He still isn't bothered by fireworks. I don't know what he went through as a young pup, but he is just totally unfazed by the whole thing. I got to give him credit.
He's seen it all.
Yeah, he has, man. As a stray dog who we found under our car in the sticks of Oklahoma.
There you go. He's
man,
not just a stray dog. He's Oklahoma.
Yeah, he's seen a lot in his life. Fireworks don't bother him one bit. He just sits there and sleeps. Sometimes his head perks up a little bit, but that's about it. But we will be covering, of course, the media's reaction to these Texas floods. We'll talk to a former Kansas City meteorologist who is now down there at 8:30. Brett Anthony will be on the show. We look forward to talking to him as we'll update you on any new information that unfolds this morning, as 10 campers and one counselor are still missing from Camp Mystic. 913-408-7957. Coming up, Elon Musk has a big announcement as he gets set to launch a new political party. Are you on board? We'll dive into it next. I love America. I know you do as well, but that doesn't mean I'm just going to be sucked in hook, line, and sinker for the American Party. No way, no how. Good morning, 6:20 on a Monday after Independence Day weekend. Great to have you here on KCMO. Elon Musk announcing the day after Independence Day on Saturday that he is launching the America Party. This following President Trump signing the big, beautiful bill on Friday afternoon at the White House. So Elon put up on X, by a factor of 2-1, you want a new political party and you shall have it. Now, this was based on a poll he did on X. Yes, highly scientific polls are always done on X, said nobody ever. So that's the first mistake there by Elon Musk. When it comes to bankrupting our country with waste and grift, we live in a one-party system, not a democracy. Today, the America Party is formed to give you back your freedom. Now, what Elon is going for here is 110% correct. I have nothing but respect for what he actually wants to accomplish because, as he has noted time and time again, the real tax on the American people is inflation, the devaluing of the dollar, which is being done every day by our government, left and right, is destroying the middle class. He's not wrong about that. But if Elon Musk was serious about trying to figure out a way to get more fiscally responsible Republicans in charge in the country, he would go about doing that through a primary system. We already have a party that at least oftentimes talks about and speaks a good game when it comes to trying to cut spending by our federal government. But this was a very tricky spot because the margins were very small for the Republican Party. Everyone knew that. So this feels like it's much more about a personal beef that Elon Musk has with Trump or people in the Republican Party than it is this genuine concern about our deficits and our $37 trillion in debt. Because I like what Elon is saying. I have been disappointed my entire adult life as someone who wants to see our debt under control. But I have been totally disappointed time after time after time by Republicans when it comes to cutting $37 trillion in debt. I readily admit that. That being said, you don't get into $37 trillion in debt overnight, and you don't dig out of it when you have like a 5-seat margin in the House and like a 3-seat margin in the Senate and think that that group is magically going to reverse 30 years of mistakes, John. That's not how our system is built.
Well, gee, I wonder where this new party will stand on EV subsidies.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Yep.
Yep. Obviously, Trump has highlighted the fact that the big, beautiful bill got rid of Elon's EV subsidies, which may be part of the reason that he's upset by all this. Entirely possible. Trump was asked about this yesterday, and here's what the president had to say to Elon Musk, starting what he claims is a third party called the America Party.
Reaction to Elon Musk starting a third party.
I think it's ridiculous to start a third party. We have a tremendous success with the Republican Party. The Democrats have lost their way, but it's always been a two-party system. And I think starting a third party just adds to confusion. It really seems to have been developed for two parties. Third parties have never worked. So he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous. Trump was being very nice, by the way.
Such a nice man.
To Elon in that clip. He didn't hammer him like he does his haters. He's just like he's wasting his time. Look at what Trump did. Trump basically remade the Republican Party. He was kind of always more of a third party-ish kind of candidate. And he realized there is no pathway for a third party, so I'll remake one of the two political parties with my vision. And that's what Trump did nearly 10 years ago now. Elon already has a party that, for the most part, he sees eye to eye with. I mean, the guy was a Trump backer. And while I will totally sympathize with Elon and the way that Congress is still overspending, in my estimation, the way to do this is to find candidates who are, first off, like-minded, care about the issues you care about if you're Elon Musk, and that's being fiscally responsible, and then getting them to win primaries and general elections through a viable path. all you will do with an America party through Elon Musk's vision of being really fiscally responsible is divide the vote on the Republican side and give big-time wins to the Democrats. If you want to see Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House, then you go ahead with the America Party, Elon. Great idea. 913-4087-957. That's how you join us on KCMO. Let's go to Kansas City. Mike is kicking it off on a Monday. What's up, Mike?
Yeah, I think all the atheists in the Democrat Party now believe in God because they got the gift that they're going to destroy the Republicans with their own guy, Musk. And, you know, you're going to get the communists, the transgenders, the pedophiles, all the wackos that are in the Democrat Party that would never win a general election. They're going to be able to be reinstated. I mean, look at New York.
You'll get the most progressive people to win generals.
Yeah, and you know, the guy in New York, he's going to win by about 33% of the vote. And because the other side, you know, divide and conquer, Sun Tzu.
Yeah, no, this is a total gift.
Yeah, I hope he wrapped it up in a nice ribbon for him.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. This is something that will make Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer very happy after what has been a brutal 2 weeks for them, right? I mean, Trump's on a red-hot 2-week winning streak here, going back to the men and women from Whiteman 2 Saturdays ago, pulling off the strikes against the Iran nuclear sites. Whether you love Trump or don't like Trump, you got to admit, the guy's been on a heater here the last couple of weeks. Ends up with a big, beautiful bill being signed on Friday by Independence Day. That's what he wanted. He got it. And then Elon says, hold my beer. Let me try to blow this whole thing up. And yes, you will get highly progressive individuals in more political power if Elon Musk gets his way. That's why it's just a mistake and it's completely unnecessary. And I guess Republicans are back to not liking Tesla and liberals will love Tesla again. Is that how this is supposed to work as well? I'm just wondering. Unbelievable. 913-408-7957. Mayor Lucas on MSNBC this weekend. We got the audio next. Was catching up on the news yesterday, getting set for the morning here on KCMO. Happy Monday. Thanks for starting your week with us on 95.7 FM. We're always streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. But I said our mayor, Kansas City Mayor Quinton Lucas, was on with Al Sharpton this weekend. I guess he was looking for something to do, so he decided to do a hit on MSNBC. And I'm like, oh, boy. I knew exactly where this was going, right? I mean, you did, I did. So I see the clips start surfacing on social media, and I'm like, oh, man, come on, Q. Come on. Don't do it to me, my man. Please, don't do this to Kansas City. But he did. He did. He went on with Al Sharpton, talk about the big, beautiful bill, Medicaid, rural hospitals. And it's like, first off, the guy represents an urban city. If MSNBC wanted an expert on rural hospitals, I don't think it's the mayor of Kansas City. And I say that with all due respect. Like, bring on a Congress member who actually has rural hospitals in their district. I don't know why Quinton Lucas is the expert on rural hospitals. But what they wanted, in part here, was a Democrat in a red state to rag on the big, beautiful bill. So that was obviously what they were going for on MSNBC with Al Sharpton. And here is what the mayor of Kansas City had to say.
Senators, both Josh Hawley, who was very vocal about the impact it would have on rural hospitals, voted for this bill. Have they proposed a way to fix the massive looming issue given what's going on in their own state?
No, Rev, it's almost even more insulting than that. So they are defunding and destabilizing healthcare in our states, while at the same time saying, yeah, we put some money in a little bucket that maybe they will be entitled to later. So you're going to strip about $150 billion of support for the system.
Can he start talking like this on our show, please? When is the mayor going to break that out? Dollars and, when are he can start calling me the Rev just for fun. When do I get that kind of a treatment,
Show some RESPICT.
Here's Mayor Lucas. Holla.
I saw him on Friday night at the fireworks, and we had a great, very pleasant conversation. And he didn't sound like that. I'll just say that much. Anyway, let's continue. Mayor Lucas with Reverend, the esteemed Reverend Al Sharpton, MSNBC, over the weekend. Here we go.
Put a third of it back in and say it should be all good. I mean, this bill is astonishing for a few different reasons. Some of us who live in the cities are used to getting picked on by this administration, are used to getting picked on by the Republican Party. But what they did this time was undermine, destabilize health care in rural Missouri and rural Middle America and rural parts of our entire country. What you are going to see is more hospitals close in rural parts of America. You are going to see more people die, and more people die earlier in rural America. If ever there has been a bill that lets lots of people in the red states, and I happen to live in one, know that our leadership does not care about you, it is this bill. It is unconscionable to me as somebody who does spend my days caring about not just the people in my city, but all the people who are hours and hours away who come to our city for care. I'm terrified for that woman who has a difficult pregnancy now. I'm terrified for the people who need care. I'm terrified for people who are living and need, frankly, food assistance and nutrition assistance in rural America. This is destabilizing not just the cities, but our entire country.
I'm terrified walking down the streets of Kansas City after 10 p.m., but, I guess that's neither here nor there. I can see there is one thing that Mayor Lucas has learned from Donald Trump, and that is how to speak in incredible hyperbole, because that's what that was. That was a show. That was an act. I don't know what he actually believes in that statement, but that's what MSNBC wanted to put on to its audience. So Mayor Lucas went along with it. And, it's good for his platform, I guess, although if he wants to have a political future in Missouri, which I believe that he does, I would advise him against doing more stuff with Al Sharpton. I mean, if you want to run the DNC, fine. But I genuinely think that this guy wants to have a political future in the state of Missouri. And I'm not talking about like Emmanuel Cleaver's seat. We actually chatted about that a little bit, and I won't take you deep into the conversation that I had with the mayor on Friday night privately. But we talked about how, like, if you've got a young family, there's not a worse job than being a member of Congress, where you're one of 435, takes you forever to work up the ladder. There's really no end game to it for the most part. Like, it's just a thankless, frankly, worthless position. But if you want to have a larger political future in the state of Missouri, stuff like this doesn't help. The accent, the hyperbole, everyone's going to die in rural Missouri. Like,
I think
just
he got
stop.
the talking point check words in there, destabilize.
Yes.
I was listening for him. I think there were 3. I didn't write them down, but I noted 3 words that will get used frequently throughout the next week.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And if we really want to talk about rural hospitals, rural Missouri, this predates the big, beautiful bill. This predates Donald Trump. In fact, I found this story from August of 2023. Do you remember the guy who might have been in charge in August of 23?
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, that guy. And the article is headlined, 1/3 of Missouri's rural hospitals at risk of closure, new data shows. Rural hospitals have been closing and dealing with short staffs and financial issues for a long time. And it's not because of one political party or the other. The biggest driver is the fact that rural America is shrinking. And there are a plethora of reasons for that. But this bill that, yes, does make it more difficult for people to receive Medicaid, like if you're an able-bodied adult, God forbid you got to go work or volunteer 20 hours a week, if that has an outsized effect on rural Missouri or rural Kansas or rural America in general, well, that tells you that the system is on the brink. That's what it tells you. And building back up rural America is something I think a lot of us want to see happen. I certainly do. It's healthy to have a rural America that is booming, or at least not shrinking as quickly as it has been for the last, frankly, generation or so. A large part of that is going to be high-speed internet, getting it to these communities and doing it quickly, whether it's in the private sector like Starlink or having some public sector element. A public-private partnership seems to be an option that should be on the table. But growing rural America is the best way to get these hospitals out of being so reliant on the system that is Medicaid. That's the bigger conversation. But instead, it's Republicans defund Medicaid. Everybody in rural America set to die in the next 5 years. It's like, really? That's where you're going? That's your pitch? Now, we also know that, the facts are the Senate did set aside $50 billion over the next 5 years for a newly created rural health transformation program that will help fund some of these rural hospitals if they're dealing with some of these difficult financial issues. Mark Alford, Missouri congressman here, was on the show last week, and he talked about how, yes, there are rural hospitals with serious issues, but the Medicaid reforms that they talked about here and that passed in the big, beautiful bill are really more about making sure that we're not getting the levels of waste, fraud, and abuse that we have seen over the last 10 to 15 years in the system, trying to get people off of the system as much as possible, or making sure you're contributing as a worker to the country if you're going to stay on it, if you're able-bodied, not if you're disabled, not if you have, 3 mouths to feed, but if you're by yourself, able-bodied, you've got to contribute. If that suddenly is the thing that sends rural hospitals into a financial calamity, then the system was going to break. It was only a matter of when. And whether it's Mayor Lucas or anybody else talking about this, it rings very hollow when their answer is just to dump more money that we don't have into a system that continues to, frankly, hurt the people they claim it's trying to help. John?
I also note, too, the occasional fascination from time to time with the mortality rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, people are going to die.
Yes,
right?
They will.
It's almost like CNN's going to put up their counter again or something.
Oh, my
right?
gosh. Could you imagine?
Sure.
I could see that
Seemingly.
coming. Rural hospital death counter on the right corner of the screen, courtesy of CNN. Sponsored by Act Blue. Not that this audience needed this reminder, but please don't be Rosie O'Donnell. Please do your best. I really
talk about a bombshell.
Would appreciate that. And I think that you and everybody in your lives would also appreciate that little bit of advice as well. That's why you come here, right? For the advice that you can't get anywhere else. Maybe it's pointing out the obvious, but some people need to hear it. Don't be Rosie O'Donnell. I bring that up because Rosie, to her credit, I give her credit for picking up and taking her bags across the pond. A lot of people said they would do it when Trump won the first time and then Trump won the second time, but very few actually ever do it. Rosie did it. She went to Ireland. Sorry to my Irish brothers and sisters on the other side of the pond, but you know what? You got to deal with Rosie now. So Rosie's over there, but here's the problem. Rosie still has like a level 11 Trump derangement syndrome. We are following the stories down in Texas where the floods have taken the lives of 82 individuals, 28 children who were at this Camp Mystic down there in central Texas, in hill country, along the Guadalupe River. And there are still, as of this morning, 10 campers and a counselor still missing. They are searching for them. That death number is going to rise north of 90. And if your first reaction is to be like, this historic act of Mother Nature is Donald Trump's fault, you're a lunatic. You're deranged. I feel sorry for you. Don't do this to yourself. If this is your initial reaction as they're looking for the bodies of children in Texas rivers, please check yourself, look in the mirror, and say, why am I doing this? But that was Rosie O'Donnell over the weekend.
And what a horror story in Texas. The flash floods in Texas, the Guadalupe River. 51 missing, 51 dead, more missing. Children at a camp. And, you know, when the president guts all of the early warning systems and the weathering forecast abilities of the government, these are the results that we're going to start to see on a daily basis because he's put this country in so much danger. by his horrible, horrible decisions and this ridiculously immoral bill that he just signed into law. As Republicans cheered, people will die as a result, and they've started already. Shame on him. Shame on every GOP sycophant who's listening and following the disastrous decisions of this mentally incapacitated POTUS.
No, shame on Rosie O'Donnell.
How dare you?
Shame on Rosie O'Donnell. I hope she hangs out with Greta Thunberg over there now that they're on the same side of the planet. They deserve each other. Shame on Rosie O'Donnell. As they are searching for the bodies of children, to sit there and say the President of the United States and his attempts with DOGE to get under control our $37 trillion in debt, our $2 trillion annual deficit. I would argue the big, beautiful bill actually wasn't all that beautiful because the spending is way too much and still way too generous. We can't afford a lot of the spending in the big, beautiful bill. She decides to say this is somehow Trump's fault. Well, here's the problem. The receipts don't back it up. Here's some of the information that you need to know. The National Weather Service issued a flood watch for Kerr County, Texas, more than 12 hours ahead of the catastrophic flood. A flash flood warning was issued for Hunt and Ingram, Texas, 3 hours before the Guadalupe River started to climb. The National Weather Service did its job on that front and did it pretty darn well. We've dealt with flash flood warnings, of course, here in the Kansas City area. And you're getting 12 hours of lead time on a flood watch and 3 hours of lead time on a flood warning? You've got this quote from Chris Vygotsky, American Meteorological Society. He works for them. He says the National Weather Service was on the ball. They were getting their message out. He added, quote, I really just want people to understand the forecast office in San Antonio did a fantastic job. Chris Martz, also a meteorologist down there in Texas, said NOAA and the National Weather Service office in Austin, San Antonio issued a flood watch over 12 hours before the flood. And they also added, as we just told you, a flash flood warning 3 hours in advance. Also, the National Weather Service down in that region had extra staff on duty during the storms. Where the office would typically have 2 forecasters on duty, they had up to 5 on staff at the time. So to somehow take your disappointment or disagreement with Donald Trump's and the Republicans' big, beautiful bill, as it's been dubbed, I'm using their verbiage here, not mine, and somehow figure out, after that gets signed on Friday, how can we blame that bill for the death of 82 people and 27 campers in the 36 hours that followed that bill signing? It's just, it's a horrific thing to try to draw a parallel between. Now, the response, the reaction, right, in the days and weeks to come, that's where you can point at your local, state, and federal politicians. You look at Katrina going back to George W. Bush. You look at North Carolina last year, Helene, with Joe Biden and the administration. See, I used one Republican, one Democrat just to, point out it can be both sides of the political aisle that fail on this stuff. The response is where you can tie in potentially the politics of the moment. But an act of God, and that's what this flood was over the weekend, which also was not wildly unusual. I'll get to that here in a minute. But claiming an act of God is specifically the result of a bill that was signed hours prior tells me how out of whack someone's political beliefs are when it comes to how they view the world. We're still looking for 10 campers here. 10 children are still missing. And to put this all at the feet of someone who had, frankly, nothing to do with it. There wasn't a Republican or a Democrat who had anything to do with what happened over the weekend. There is no politician right now who is at fault for what Mother Nature just did in Texas. This is a 90-10 deal. And whether it's Rosie O'Donnell or any of the other insane individuals you've seen take this approach over the weekend on social media, my goodness, get out and touch some grass, please, for the sake of yourself, your friends, and your family. But the Guadalupe River has been prone to flash flooding for a long time. Why? Due to a combination of topography, geology, and climate. Texas Hill Country is often called Flash Flood Alley, with significant floods having occurred in 1978, 1987, 2002, and now in 2025. And Brett Anthony is going to be here at 8:30. You may remember him. He was at KCTV5 for years. He is now a meteorologist in Central Texas in Tyler, and he's going to give us some of that insight coming up at 8:30 this morning here on KCMO. So you make sure you want to be here because we will talk to him about that and what makes that part of the state of Texas unique to this incredible flooding. Now, the other thing that has come up to the forefront here in the wake of this tragedy over the weekend is what is Camp Mystic? Well, it turns out it is one of the most exclusive and sought-after camps for young women in the entire country. And its backstory is fascinating, and it really hasn't been told over the weekend, at least not in the way that I think it should have been told. We're learning more about Camp Mystic, which, of course, and unfortunately has been the center of the news cycle here the last couple of days in the wake of the 82 deaths that have been reported following the flooding down in Hill Country in south central Texas. That includes 27 campers from Camp Mystic, which is a private Christian summer camp for girls located in the Texas Hill Country on the banks of the Guadalupe River. It was founded in 1926, and it's known for providing a wholesome environment where girls can develop personal qualities, self-esteem, spiritual growth, and lasting friendships. The camp offers a variety of activities, including archery, canoeing, horseback riding, and more. And it's situated right there in Texas Hill Country near Kerrville, Texas, on the Guadalupe River. And I've only been out to that part of the country once when visiting the Austin, Waco, San Antonio area. And it is beautiful. It's growing quickly. There's a lot of big money out that way. And it can be, and it is a beautiful part of the country, but it can be prone to these floods as well. So this Camp Mystic, I found a story from, it goes back over 10 years. It's in Texas Monthly. And it was talking about the history of Camp Mystic, which has a 5-hole golf course on it and much more. And at the time, they were charging $4,400 for this 30-day session. And the girls learned to shoot rifles, ride horses, catch bass, hike, face down a rattlesnake or two, and it's got a very long history going back to the 1920s. It also has a long line of notable alumni. That list includes the daughters of Governors Price Daniel, Dan Mooney, John Connolly. LBJ's daughters and granddaughters and great-granddaughters have all attended. Laura Bush famously worked as a counselor between her terms at SMU, Southern Methodist University, down at Camp Mystic. Mystic girls, this article notes, say their camp days prepare them for the real world. They become executives at Neiman Marcus. They dance with London's Royal Ballet, own a Gymboree franchise, or marry well and become the kind of intensely focused volunteers who would also be successful as CEOs. But most importantly, the article notes here, Mystic girls make friendships that last forever. Not only do they form a Mystic mafia that stretches all over the world, but they also help one another get into Kappa Kappa Gamma at the University of Texas, the Junior League, and if need be, a clinical trial at MD Anderson. These bonds are forged in no small part by the history and ethos of the camp itself. The current incarnation of the Mystic was founded on the eve of World War II and has been owned by the same family for generations. So this camp is well regarded and well known down in that part of the country. And it's a who's who of people who end up attending. They foot obviously a big bill, thousands of dollars to go to Camp Mystic, and it becomes part of their, frankly, societal and cultural lives. Like a fraternity does for young men in college, sororities for young women, and things of that nature. So this was not and has never been, a thrown together camp of people who are maybe not well to do and don't have the ability to get alerted to what's going on and had no way to know what was happening. I mean, that's not what this group and what this camp is about, right? That's not who these people are. I'm not saying that's better or worse had it been the other way around, but you can't sit here and say that these people did not have the top resources available to them to be alerted as to what was potentially going to happen in that part of the country over the weekend. And that's where, as we continue to find out more about what happened or what did not happen, there have got to be some answers as to why there were flash flood watches 12 hours prior, flash flood warnings up to 3 hours prior, and still nobody did anything for these children. It's not up to the 8 and the 9-year-olds to know about a flash flood warning. It's up to the adults in charge. And in a day and age where, listen, you've got access to this information at your fingertips all day, every day, somebody royally screwed up and the ball was massively dropped. And we'll learn more about it, I'm sure, in the days ahead. But right now, we know that death toll is at 82. That includes 28 children, 27 campers as well of that 28.